The Kamado family's ancestral memories were a game changer in the Demon Slayer story, as they helped Tanjiro master sun breathing through the Hinokami Kagura. But what if Tanjiro never accessed those memories? What if instead, he created something entirely his own, born from the snowy mountains he called home? In today's video, we'll explore what would happen to the Demon Slayer story in a timeline where Tanjiro develops his own breathing style. Now, before we dive into how the story changes, let's establish what stays the same. Just like in the original timeline, Muzan attacks the Kamado household and transforms Nezuko into a demon. Giyu discovers the siblings and sends them to Orokodaki for training, and Tanjiro begins learning water breathing. Throughout his training, Tanjiro struggles with water breathing in ways Orokodaki can't quite understand. He works hard to follow Orokodaki's training and manages to execute the water breathing forms, but they lack the natural flow that makes them truly effective. Unlike his former pupils like Sabito and Giyu, the movements and philosophy of water breathing don't align with Tanjiro's body or personality. But despite these challenges, the early arcs of our story proceed similar to the original timeline. Tanjiro survives final selection, defeats the hand demon, and makes his way through the Asakusa district arc, all while using water breathing. Water flows and adapts, but Tanjiro grew up on a snowy mountainside, carrying heavy loads of charcoal through blizzards, so his body adapted to harsh, unforgiving conditions. His personality isn't as stable as Giyu's. He's soft and gentle one moment, then sudden and devastating the next. It's just like how a peaceful snowfall can transform into a deadly avalanche without warning. During one particularly difficult training session, after his encounter in Asakusa, Tanjiro realizes he's fighting against his own nature. That night, Tanjiro approaches Urokodaki with an unconventional request, permission to modify his training and create something new. Urokodaki is reluctant to fulfill Tanjiro's wish at first. Water breathing is one of the core breathing styles, and has served the core for centuries. However, he sees the fire in Tanjiro's eyes, and remembers that many of the greatest demon slayers like Muichiro and his mist breathing created techniques suited to their unique strengths. Urokodaki agrees under the condition that Tanjiro should master all the forms of water breathing first. After all, every breathing style branches from the core principles established centuries ago. Over the following months, Tanjiro develops his own breathing style, snow breathing, through a combination of water breathing fundamentals and his childhood experiences. His first form, fresh powder, is a deceptively gentle technique. Like newly fallen snow, it appears soft and harmless, masking the devastating strikes that follow. The third form, frozen cascade, combines defensive movements with offensive potential, as Tanjiro creates a solid wall of rotating slashes that can both deflect attacks and trap opponents. By the time Tanjiro heads to Mount Naragumo, he's developed 7 complete forms of snow breathing. The battle against Rui becomes fundamentally different in this timeline, as Tanjiro doesn't have the Hinokami Kagura to fall back on. Seeing that he's fighting an incredibly strong demon, Tanjiro begins with water breathing, but he's quickly overwhelmed by Rui's web-based blood demon art. Nezuko's burning blood helps Tanjiro buy some time to gather his thoughts, and he decides to switch breathing styles as his snow-breathing third form, Frozen Cascade, deflects the threads. Switching styles mid-battle bought Tanjiro some time by confusing Rui, but it's definitely not enough to defeat a lower moon, especially given that Tanjiro is still inexperienced with his breathing style. But just when Tanjiro is about to be killed, Giyu arrives and finishes the fight with dead calm. Giyu saw Tanjiro using snow breathing, and as a water Hashira who created his own form, he understands the significance of what Tanjiro accomplished. In this timeline, Tanjiro isn't only accompanied by Zenitsu and Inosuke in the Butterfly Mansion. Giyu visits regularly and helps Tanjiro refine snow breathing by training with him. Giyu helps Tanjiro understand something crucial. His breathing style isn't just about power, it's about control and timing. Snow can be peaceful or deadly, but it's always patient, leading Tanjiro to develop more precise and controlled forms. When Tanjiro boards the Mugen train with Rengoku, he's much more confident in his snow breathing. The battle against Denmu doesn't change much at first, but it's also the first point in the original timeline where sun breathing made a big difference, as Tanjiro cut through the train to behead the Lower Moon One. But sun breathing in the Mugen train arc was just an expression of power that could not be achieved through water breathing. Thanks to snow breathing being a better form for his body, each consecutive strike that Tanjiro lands builds more power, eventually generating enough force to sever the demon's neck. However, Tanjiro's unique style is useless against Akaza, as he still lacks the combat ability to even track the Upper Moon's movements. The battle plays out tragically the same, with Rengoku falling to Akaza, but before he dies, Rengoku grabs Tanjiro's hand and gives him the Flame Hashira's sword guard. With his dying breath, Rengoku tells Tanjiro to read the Rengoku family archives, believing there might be something there to guide him towards perfecting his new form. By the time the Entertainment District arc begins, Tanjiro has developed 2 more forms, bringing his total to 9. When Gyutaro and Daki emerge, the battle becomes a showcase of how far Tanjiro has come. His snow breathing proves surprisingly effective against both demons. Tanjiro fends off Daki's sashes with his 6th form, Whiteout Advance, delivering multiple feints that confuse her to the point where she can't track which slash is real. This combination of Tanjiro's innovative style, Tengen's experience, and the support from Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Nezuko allows them to defeat the Upper Moon siblings. Tengen still loses his eye and arm as Tanjiro isn't strong enough to prevent that, but the stage is set for the Swordsmith Village arc. But here's where things get interesting. The hardcore Demon Slayer fans watching would have realized by now that not rediscovering sun breathing puts the Demon Slayers at a serious disadvantage. You see, for a swordsman to awaken their Demon Slayer mark, they need to have been in the presence of a previously marked sun breathing user. But Tanjiro hasn't used sun breathing yet and hasn't awakened his own Demon Slayer mark, meaning that it's practically impossible for any of the Hashira to enter the marked state. This radically changes the Swordsmith Village arc, as awakening the Demon Slayer mark was the key to Muichiro defeating Gyoko. Without it, Muichiro drowns in the water trap set by the Upper Moon 5, meaning that Gyoko survives to take part in the final battle as well. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Mitsuri face Hantengu, with the main battle proceeding similarly, as Tanjiro hunts the smaller body while Mitsuri handles Zohakuten. Now, even with her Demon Slayer mark, Mitsuri barely made it out alive, so chances are she actually falls in the battle to defend the Swordsmith Village. However, thanks to her uniquely powerful physical abilities, Mitsuri does hold off Zohakuten long enough for Tanjiro to track down Hantengu's main body deep inside the forest. Now, Zohakuten's abilities are actually much weaker inside a dense forest, meaning that Tanjiro and Genya would hunt down Hantengu the same way they did in the original timeline. The real question is whether Tanjiro would be able to behead the Upper Moon 4, and this basically becomes a question of precision. As the sun rises, Tanjiro delivers the snow-breathing 8th form, Avalanche Descent, a devastating technique that builds momentum with each strike, just like snow cascading down a mountain gains unstoppable force. Tanjiro manages to behead Hantengu right at the break of dawn, and the power of his slash together with the rising sun puts an end to the Upper Moon 4. While some swordsmiths were rescued, the casualties were pretty serious this time, as Gyoko was able to terrorize the village for a while after defeating Muichiro. This means that moving into the Hashira training arc, the Demon Slayers are at a serious disadvantage. Gyoko is still alive, while Mitsuri and Muichiro have been killed in battle. But additionally, the Demon Slayers don't gain any new knowledge about the marked state during their training. The worst part of all this is that Muzan still targets the Demon Slayers as the Upper Moon 6 and 4 were defeated, while Nezuko also gained immunity to the sun. So when the Demon Slayers are teleported to the Infinity Castle and the final battle begins, Tanjiro doesn't enter as the inheritor of sun breathing, but as a Hashira-level fighter in his own right. This time, the casualties are worse than last time. Zenitsu still takes down Kaigaku, and Shinobu's sacrifice lets Inosuke and Kanao put an end to Doma's reign of terror. But the similarities with the original timeline stop there, as Gyomei is confronted by Gyoko, and Obanai faces off against Nakime alone. Now, these two battles still go well, as Gyomei's Kusarigama lets him shatter Gyoko's pots and pull the demon into a direct brawl that favors the Stone Hashira's overwhelming power. Obanai takes a few more hits from Nakime than in the original timeline, but he's narrowly saved by Yushiro, who manages to take control of the Biwa demon. Even without their marks, Tanjiro and Giyu manage to take out Akaza as well, since they've grown considerably since Rengoku's death. But without the speed boosts from their marks, Giyu and Tanjiro sustain far more injuries, and enter the final battle with broken bones and life-threatening internal injuries from Akaza's shockwaves. But that leaves the Shinazugawa brothers, Genya and Sanemi, to face off against the Upper Moon 1, and this fight is an absolute bloodbath. Originally, Genya's sacrifice allowed Sanemi and Gyomei to get out alive, but this time, they simply don't have the muscle to make a difference. Genya still dies in battle, but Sanemi is forced to give his life as well to land the decisive blow that ends Kokushibo. As the remaining Demon Slayers face off against Muzan, they're slowly but surely overpowered. They did everything right with the Hashira training and the anti-Muzan drug, but it still feels like they're missing one major part of the puzzle. You're strong, Muzan observes, but you lack the spark that Yoriichi possessed all those years ago. Tanjiro desperately unleashes the snow-breathing 9th form, Eternal Winter, an attack that combines offensive and defensive moves from every preceding form. But it's still not enough. As dawn approaches, Tanjiro draws his final breaths as the last human standing, and the Demon King prevails. So what do you think? Is there any way for this version of Tanjiro to defeat the Demon King? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.